What's up? What's up? What's up? What's up, chat? Which one is it? Uh, um, I think it's this one. Hey, hey, everyone. I think it's that. We'll figure it out. We'll figure it out later. We'll fix that in post. No, we won't. I don't fix anything in post. What's post? I don't know. Anyways, we gotta focus. We gotta dive right into things. We gotta put the blinders on, because chapter 4, oof, ooh Nelly, it is slightly longer than the other chapters. So that means it's gonna take me a long time to talk about things. Oh dear, oh dear. There we go. I'm trying to move OBS on my other screen, and Windows ain't happy. Windows ain't happy. When is it happy? All right, yeah, let's, like I just said, like I definitely wasn't just diverting and becoming distracted. We gotta focus. We gotta focus. Put the blinders on, as I was saying. And dive right into chapter 4. Here it is, right behind me. Chapter 4, Saint. Definitely not chapter 4, Nun. That would be absurd. I would never go through the entire chapter and use the wrong moniker. But yeah, chapter 4. Let's just dive right in. We're going to hop right to it. Chapter 4, Teal has finished with the scoundrel, proceeds to leave. We open up and she's just, she's got this repressed frustration, which is right, but I don't think it was taken in the right direction. It provides this kind of lackluster approach to the monastery, which is kind of this iconic, location. This is where we're going next. This is where we're spending the rest of the chapter. And like Teal is just upset, and because of that we really gloss over a lot of the monastery, which makes sense, but personally rereading this I found it really boring. There's a lot of focus on Teal and what Teal's feeling and what's going on with Teal, which is fine, which is good, but the fact that I can't tell where we are stood out to me as being problematic. A solution I have here is maybe in the future I could like talk about what Teal is missing. I could describe little bits that she's breezing past, that she's not taking care to notice, things she normally would, that she is in her state otherwise ignorant of. I do this other thing here where I'm Teal has her outburst, and then she's trying to, I think she's talking to Lacrimosa here, and she's trying to rationalize it. She's trying to reason like, oh, this is why I'm upset, which is kind of silly. Like, you don't, well, I mean, I guess sometimes you do. If you sit around and you're upset, maybe you try to rationalize why you're upset, but usually that happens after the fact. And I think in this instance, what Teal should be doing is just stewing. She should just be hanging out and being upset. And in this vein, instead of having this like return to a memory that feels kind of token, like she really just pulls it out of thin air. She just goes on about this slight, like, oh, what are the odds this ruffian is, kicking at an old wound, pouring salt in a wound, so to speak. And she really just, she pulls that out of nowhere with no context, and that feels kind of silly. Very token. Very, oh, Teal, I need Teal to be upset here. Ergo, here's the reason. Where in better context, in a more nuanced form, she would be kind of just sitting and being upset, and she would be pulling at these strands of memories that were kind of coming to her. But I don't think anything should be as like this coherent or this clear. For instance, right, Teal eventually mentions, she's just like, oh yeah, Azure. That's what happened. Azure showed up. And like, once again, super token. This needs to be something that's very gray. We're still in part one where like Teal's been off this ship. She's been out of the river for who knows how long, not very long in the grand scheme of things. And she's already crystal clear, oh yeah, this event in my past, Azure, right, my half-sister, yada, yada, yada. And I think it would be much more subtle and much more evocative of her current state to have a lot of grayness, a lot of haze to her memories. Maybe she does remember Azure, she does remember Akin, but we need to dwell on the fact that Teal sits there and goes, why do I remember this person? Why do they kind of look like me? Or actually, she wouldn't be thinking that, because she can't remember what they look like. So there's another reason to be uncertain. Teal's really sitting there like, oh wait, I remember this incident, and I feel like I know this person, but why? Why do I feel a connection with them? And then this is just me yammering, like further threads to be pulling on. Should this be the direction I follow in the future? This would then transpire into her kind of being overwhelmed, right? Which happens a lot, right? Where Teal's sitting and thinking and stewing, and then comes to a point of like, I don't want to think anymore. And this would be when she should turn to Lacrimosa. She shouldn't just like, she shouldn't immediately go, I am stressed, ergo I will contact, I will talk to Lacrimosa. Lacrimosa, especially right now, is primarily kind of a novelty, right? Lacrimosa really doesn't come into their own, and like, even though we have chapter 5, the next one, where Teal starts building a bond, the bond really isn't formed until later on in the book. Right now, Teal still just kind of considers Lacrimosa a bug. Sure, she named them, right? There's some propinquity there. But she shouldn't just be spewing this, this little memory of hers to Lacrimosa. I think Lacrimosa should come in as a way to be an out. Teal feels stressed. She goes, oh yeah, the bug. And she diverts her attention. She diverts her consternation from this situation onto something that is much more pleasant. This lets me lean into this kind of weirdly comforting sensation that Lacrimosa provides. We see this come up quite a bit later on, where Teal kind of just like zones out, staring at Lacrimosa, and feels at ease, right? She feels not quite contentedness, but she's appreciative of the fact that she's not in inner turmoil. And I got to build that up somewhere, because once again, later on it kind of just comes out of nowhere like a frying pan over the head, that Teal just zones out when she's staring at Lacrimosa. We gotta have a crumb trail. This also incorporates, in a better way in my mind, Teal's empathy that she is projecting, right? She has enough empathy to connect to a little bug. She sees the little eye, she sees the life in Lacrimosa, and she, you could call it cabin fever or what have you. You could say she's going nuts, but regardless, she is weaving on these emotions, and these, careful considerations onto an insect that she has with her, which is, a defining trait of Teal, is that Teal is very empathetic, and, Teal's kind of, can be a little self-centered, but ultimately she reads people very well, and she can understand what people are kind of feeling. She's very good at putting herself in other people's shoes. Hence why she later on is very concerned with Lacrimosa and like the objective weirdness, the moral grayness of keeping a bug around on you because it's a source of light, even though that means you're trapping them in a lantern. But yeah, that's a good place to put that seed, to plant that seed, is like, oh, Teal is a little weirdo talking to a bug. Boop, plant that seed there. So needless to say, this entire first part is just going to get reordered. The state of it, the scaffolding, so to speak, the skeleton of it is largely going to remain the same, but definitely the order of things need to be switched around, the reason for things being mentioned. Yeah, a lot of this is just getting scrapped and reformatted. Teal has her little moment. She decides, okay, well, I can't sit around here forever. And she gets up and she goes into the monastery. She says, okay, well, I better check things out. I don't see the saint out here. Maybe they're inside. So Teal's observations here are really stagnant, which I need to adjust going forward, because Teal is exploring. I think I do a much better job on this later on when Teal notices things as she goes through environments. She's very curious, right? Some would say nosy, but she's always kind of taking in her surroundings. So for her to just be standing still here and looking felt really wrong to me. She would definitely just straight away start looking around, start sticking her nose into spots where, I don't know, she definitely doesn't have direct permission to be here, nor does she have really permission to be anywhere she ends up, but still she's there and she looks around because she's nosy. So there should be more of an active sense to the scene where Teal is looking around, and not just standing there. Teal should be actively walking into the monastery and looking at this and that. And maybe she leans on a rail and looks into the garden, and maybe she goes to the other side and notices the floorboards are all creaking and what have you. I mention here that Teal has a strange familiarity with the location, but I don't mention at all why. I really need to go back and either just omit that, or would be a better approach in my mind to explain, or not maybe explain, but to highlight the bias that Teal's imagination has. Where she assumes, oh, this would be a garden. These things here maybe are to scare off birds. Maybe it's a bird scare. Things like that are kind of in the right direction, but it's just not explained. I don't get into why she remembers this, why she thinks, and she would be kind of questioning herself, like, oh, why did I think that doesn't really make sense. And maybe there should be an instance here of her assuming something is one thing and then being proven in almost the exact moment that that's wrong. I don't know exactly how I do that. But yeah, like I have written here, I just need to inform her imagination a little better. because she doesn't really have this reaction of like, oh, why am I thinking that? Why do I think this is a garden? Why do I think this is a monastery? Why do I think the lattices are open to let the breeze in? Why do I know those are lattices? Why do I know this is kind of a monastery? Just things to consider. I have a note here of wanting to better capture the feeling of looking for something on a property you don't think you're allowed to be on, which is a very personal sensation, something I've definitely gotten myself into more than I care to admit. But it's a very distinct feeling of, and I'm sure, I'm talking to people on the internet here, so somebody's got to be like, oh yeah, I know that feeling. At least I hope so. It'd be kind of weird. It'd be kind of weird if nobody got what I was talking about. But essentially, being on a lot, being on a lot where there's no trespassing signs, and you think to yourself, well, okay, I'm not going to walk a block around this empty construction site on a weekend at night. I'm not going to waste 15 minutes just because there's a sign here saying no trespassing. Or, maybe you follow a cat into a park. And, that's kind of weird chasing a cat around a park, but here you are doing it. Maybe you inadvertently are looking for a ball that landed in your neighbor's yard. You shouldn't be in your neighbor's yard, but you're just going there to grab the ball. So there are weird little gray areas where trespassing is it's not good, but you got to do it. And sometimes you just end up lost in places that you're not really sure if they're public spaces, but you're there, right? I think while I was writing this, I was thinking of when you walk into a building and there's clearly security, right? Clearly you shouldn't be there, and there's security there to make sure you shouldn't be there, but there's an access somewhere in that building to, maybe a storefront or a pathway or an escalator that leads into a mall or something, right? Like there's some idiot put a high rise here, and there's ground level access, but you have to walk through this foyer, this secure foyer that is meant to keep out people, which, let's be honest, they're keeping out homeless people, and that's messed up. But something like that, where you're clearly in a spot that you're not supposed to be in technically, but you have to be here right now, and you're kind of just going through it because you don't know where you're headed. That's probably enough examples. I think I've explained myself. So I want to incorporate that more into Teal's entrance into the monastery grounds, that she has this feeling of defilement, of suspicion, of am I doing something wrong? I don't think so. I'm pretty sure I'm in the right here, but is this someone's house? Am I trespassing right now? Questions that will be answered probably never, but I digress. Teal snoops around, and eventually, after a lot of being kind of creepy, Teal finds a figure in the distance, this splendid looking individual. I have here that there's a romantic element to it. I should just lean into it a little more and have all of this really velvety language, maybe even reference something from romance novels, and just, a little sprinkle of pink glitter over the scene just for no reason, just because I think it'll be funny. Because this leads into the next point, that this is a great spot to allude to Teal's bisexuality without overtly saying it. Because it's never really overtly said until way later in the book. But there's a lot of little instances that, it's there. But this could be the first one. This could be the first one that Teal's sort of, oh, she's smitten, and she's kind of just staring, and she doesn't know what to say, and, woman, right? There's also a funny gag here where, a funny gag that could be played that I just didn't think of, where Teal's obviously hiding around the corner. And that makes sense if you don't consider the fact that her hat is massive. How on earth is she hiding that hat behind the corner? I don't know. I don't think she would be. I think she would just be standing around the corner with her hat hanging out. And that's just, I had such a good chuckle thinking about that, reading over this chapter for the 5th time. Right, I read this chapter probably a dozen times, let's be real. And only now have I just thought, like, how is Teal hiding? Teal wouldn't be hiding very well. She stands out at the best of times, but her freaking hat. Teal literally jumps out of the corner and is just way too formal, which isn't wrong, but it feels forced. The fact that she doesn't have any hesitation, she immediately is just like, the saint says, "Hey, who's there?" And Teal jumps out and just goes, "Oh, it's me. Hello." I think there would be at least a paragraph or so of Teal like, "Oh, maybe I should just go. Oh, I've been caught. Oh, I'm such a creep. I'm a big weirdo." And maybe, she like yanks on her hat and she has a little temper tantrum. Not a temper tantrum, just a regular tantrum of flustered bashfulness. And she would definitely come out and be so awkward in that moment that I don't think she would be so formal. She would work her way into the formalness for sure, but she would be just a mess. Just an absolute elf failure. Half elf failure. Does that mean the failure is half? Anyway. Yeah, too forced. A little bit of whiplash. It's not wrong. Once again, a lot of the things with this chapter is it's not wrong, but I think the execution is poor. What do we got next? So there's a lot of this where I reference it very poorly because I thought at the time this would just be something I'd keep. But now that I look back on it, I don't think I want to keep the poems that I basically stole, right? They are meant to be references. Obviously I didn't cite them, but I also don't know if I could. There's some weird legal gray area where technically I'm using a more modern translation, so it's still in the copyright, and I'd still have to, I'd have to credit the translator, even though the work itself is over 1,000 years old. But then I could go with, I could just reference an older translation, which would have, its copyrights have run out. But I think just rewrite the poems. I'll just rewrite the poems. I want to evoke the same sensation. Where the saint says a poem, it's going to be a poem. But they'll be rewritten as, custom tonkas that are kind of just alluding to the same thing. So in a sense, I'm still referencing the Tale of Genji here pretty heavily, but without overtly just yoinking the text out from the translations. Yada yada. It makes Teal's poem, her previous poem, a little more interesting. And I don't really dwell on this, the fact that, if Teal recited this tonka previously and she finds the saint and she's kind of like, wait a minute, that sounds like the poem. Wait, that's the meter I was using. Those are the same syllables. And Teal being a huge dweeb, right? Teal would notice that right away. So it lends this other layer of depth of Teal going and thinking, hey, why do you know that? Why do I know that? And Teal would probably get pretty judgy. And then I have here just a very haphazard last thought, maybe the saint is a half elf. That'd be kind of funny. right? Maybe Teal is not the only half elf here. Something I've never thought of before, but hey, it could be a thing, right? It doesn't really affect the narrative at all, but it would explain it. It would explain why this person's here and why Teal thinks like, oh, I kind of remember. You look familiar. Do I know you? Do you know me? Actually, is a better question, because I don't know me. Not yet, anyway. I have here, yeah. So the saint is talking, and they've got this early modern English, and I think somewhere around the middle, I just give up. I'm just like, oh, that's too hard. Which I probably shouldn't do that. I should probably just stick with it. I don't know if it's that per se. Because I need a method of having the saint's speech seem haughty, but also dated. I need to make her seem kind of antiquated. And the best way to do that is, right, she's wearing these decadent robes, but she also talks like, the upper crust. She talks, she sees herself so highly that she talks better than everyone, right? That's the idea, at least. I have here just a thought that I had was I could maybe reference a lot of her speech or manners on some distinct material from like late 1800s, so that it would reflect Teal, right? If I were to do something in the vein of Teal speaking like, a Georgian, like somebody from Georgian England, Edwardian. Like Teal would talk like somebody who's translating Alexander Dumas, or I don't know. What's that other guy? The one who wrote Sherlock? Doyle? Arthur Conan Doyle? Something like that, right? In that kind of vein. Whereas the saint here would reflect more like romantic culture of the same time. So I was thinking like Madame Butterfly, there's so much to take from that for this character. There's so much to reference and use for inspiration. There's the opera, there's the book, there's the translated book, there's the original French text, the like weird historical text. Also just taking lines, just taking speech patterns from the Tale of Genji, Tale of the Heike, using some of the works of Soseki, Natsume Soseki, which I've never read, but I would love to, and this would be a good reason, right? If I had a character based off of, that time period work, hey, what better person to use than, a Japanese author who studied English, and I need something kind of in that vein, so hey, why not? Why not just reference some of their speech patterns of some of the characters in their books, mind you. Like I'm sitting here thinking about it right now, and I can already imagine that I've read some parts of I Am a Cat, and the cat in that book talks in a demeanor that, like I know they see themselves very highly. So I'm already, smiling, talking about this, that, yeah, if I had her talk like the cat from I Am a Cat, that's perfect. That's brilliant. That's wonderful. I just got to get my hands on a copy and done like dinner. Just one last caveat here is that she should become, right? She should drop this poise of hers, this stiff upper lip, so to speak, that once she discovers that Teal is a woman, the saying is just like, oh, honey, all right, I can drop this charade. We can be friends. Like, oh, it's cool, man. We're cool. We're both girls. We're both gals. We can hang out. Just to exemplify like how elated the saint is to be talking to another woman for a change, and not only that, to be talking to a woman who understands her level of refinement, Pardon me. That cough snuck up on me. Sorry. But yeah, the saint would cool. They would ease their the wall they've put up around themselves. This kind of not quite a persona, but they would drop their guard, which means they would speak at ease. They wouldn't be maintaining this persistent decorum. What else here? I mentioned very briefly that, right, she's got this mask, she's got a veil, she's got this fan, her hair is short. I don't do a very good job doing it. I just mention it. I mentioned that her hair is as Teal's. And at this point, I know in the previous chapter, the scoundrel made fun of her for having short hair. She was just talking about the start of this chapter about how she was teased as a child growing up for having shorter hair. But I don't know if people have picked up on that by this point. I don't think if they picked up on enough for one character saying, oh, her hair is similar, for them to go, oh, that means it's dark and short. If it does, cool. If that reads, great. I don't think it, reading this, I was confused. Like, oh, she's got a veil. I don't know what that means. Which I imagine most people, right? I'm reading this. I'm trying to subject myself to being a normal person. Heaven forbid. It's difficult for me to be normal considering I'm a box, but I try my best. What was I saying? I forget. I don't remember what I was talking about. So we that's right. So I never really mentioned that the saint's supposed to be a nun. And she could just outright say that and be like, oh, that's why I'm here. I'm like, I take care of this place because I'm a priestess. I don't know. I'm kind of torn now that I'm talking about it because I do like the airiness of it, but I think it would read better if I was just a little more overt about what the saint actually is. I'm rereading my notes here. She'll need other methods of noticing the saint's vanity. I think with that I'm trying to say that Teal can't really Teal wouldn't really rather dive in to sort of this dissection that she does. Teal would need to pump the saint up a little bit, inveigle her, get her going, really lean on her pride and her arrogance in order to see this other side of her. Not that the saint at this point hasn't been incredibly haughty, but I think going forward in the second draft, it would need to be shifted a little bit, where Teal's presence in this conversation is a little more active. Where right now she's kind of just hitting the ball back and forth, right? They're rallying a little bit, whereas Teal kind of gets this twinge of aren't you a little, I don't know, aren't you a little dolled up to be a saint? Aren't you a little dolled up to be a priestess? Isn't this supposed to be kind of a position of humility? And she's trying to get that out of this character. Of she's trying to make the saint falter a little bit because she's not really sure if she can trust her. She's not sure if she can trust whatever this woman is going to tell her, because apparently this is the woman who has information regarding what lies beyond the river, right? And Teal's not going to come in here and just take what they say for face value. Um, I mean, they'll listen, right? Teal will listen, but I guess she's a little suspicious like that, especially right now with her memory the way it is. Um, there's this commentary where the saint makes some pretty sexist comments. Um, that's fine. Not gonna stay. Some of them are even just quotes from the Tale of Genji, which I think if there's a quote, like if it's a quote and it's not the poem itself, I think it's fine to stay. Like I might have to reference it, but what are they gonna do? Are they gonna get mad at me for referencing one line of text from one translation? Okay, if they get mad at me, they get mad at me. I'll change it, right? And if I do have to cite it, okay, then I'll cite it. I'll put in a footnote like I did, except proper. Teal just comes out once they're talking. No, a little before they go inside. She says she's a woman. The Riverman reluctantly. Yeah, so Teal has this moment where she's admitting she has amnesia. I think she would do that way less overtly. I don't even know if she would at all. Like she kind of just says it on a whim to soften herself, it seems. But I don't know if she would do that. I don't know if she has a point to do that. I don't know if she feels herself in a safe enough situation right now to do that. Because she's still in very danger zone of I don't really remember much of anything, and I don't think I'm safe to go around telling people I don't remember anything. Right? That's a bit of a risky play. But the priestess just says, "Yep, okay, cool. That's what happens. That's what happens here." And we'll move on with that in a second. But the saint at this point refers to Teal as Little Swallow. And I don't know why I wrote that. I don't know why I did that. But I do now. And because that's another good motif to play with, right? I have no idea why I did this. I don't do it. And maybe this is, brain blast from me in the past. If it is, props to past me for a change. Because this is a great moment to lean in on this motif of Teal, who, spoiler alert, is named after a bird, having these moments of like, oh, that's a really familiar nickname, like not quite right, but why do people keep calling me birds? Why does this keep happening? Why is there this strange connection with avians and me? Like she gets it. She's like, okay, sure, I guess, but she doesn't. She doesn't in her heart. She doesn't know why her heart hurts when there's these allusions to birds. There's another instance. The other one that sticks out is the dandy refers to her as ma petite oiseau, and right, like I can lean into that. I can have other people just call her different kinds of birds. Like I'm already thinking, okay, the I'm forgetting the characters' names in my own book. The guy at the market, the guy at the big money bags at the market, could call her an annoying finch or something, a tittering dove who won't leave them alone. And that could, you can do that anywhere. Like birds can be affectionate diminutives, nicknames, or they can be insults. Somebody could very easily call Teal, a bombastic white crow. Maybe it's the poet. Maybe the poet calls Teal something like that. But right, this is something I can play with, where Teal often has these moments of like, why are people calling me birds, and why do I hate it? Like, why does it make me cringe a little bit, and also makes me feel guilty about something I apparently did was related to birds. And maybe she has this moment of like, oh, maybe, like, was I evil? Did I kill birds? Did I kill birds in my spare time when I had a brain that worked? And this can be another one of many things that I think roll down a hill until they get to, hey, chapter 35 with the Wanderer. Forgive my dog if you can hear them. They seem like they're upset about something upstairs. But I digress. This is something that rolls downhill until chapter 35 when the Wanderer, another one of many things I need the Wanderer to do. Not that they don't already do it, but I need them to do it more in the future, is that they just torment Teal. They torment Teal, and this is another point I can really drive home, is that, they make fun of her. They use the same name that Teal remembers as an important nickname, right? They call her this little bird. And Teal's that's another nail in Teal's heart at that point, where Teal is exhausted and just wants her memories back and just hates this little munchkin, but apparently there's some weird demon, and they say they can give her her memories back if she just takes their hand. So if this tormenting being is like, clearly they know things about me because I haven't told anyone that. How do they know that? Just another reason, right? Another reason for Teal to take the Wanderer's hand. Because that's a big moment. I need that to make a bigger moment. That's a big deal. And right now I feel like it's not a big deal, but it is a big deal. It should be a big deal. Enough of that. We're moving on. Just like these two. They move inside. They have tea. That's fine. There's some social faux pas here, right? Teal leaves her hat on. Teal would absolutely not do that. Teal would adhere just on like a molecular level. She would adhere to decorum. She would be steadfast in her manners. She wouldn't really know why. She would just be like, well, these are the things one does when one takes tea. This also gives me a chance to delve into her, the layer of garments underneath her cloak, because obviously she takes her cloak off, she takes her hat off, she might even take her boots off. We get some character building if this is the route that I take, where like I just said, Teal very instinctively adheres to manners, like proper etiquette. This would then allow for a bit more of a believable conversation, where right now it feels like I have them bring up things I need them to, or that are kind of important, or things I need to mention about Teal, right? Right, that like this, she tells her essentially, take off your hat, and Teal does, and then she goes, oh, goodness, your ears, thine ears, which can still happen, but the flow of this conversation needs to change, and Teal's ears are definitely something that need to be addressed, because at this point in the book we don't know what Teal is. And it's important later. It's pretty important later that we figure out that she's half an elf. It's not really important in this book, but it comes up. It comes up later. No spoilers. This does complicate things, right? The setting of the scene would need to be different. I think the saint would need to come into the room. She would maybe be preparing the tea behind maybe a screen or in another chamber, and she would have to bring it in or otherwise reveal herself. It's not something hard to do. It would just need to be reworked. But there would need to be a reveal moment of like, oh, goodness, your ears. Otherwise, the saint is pretty pleased. They're thrilled almost to see an individual taking tea with them, and who knows the proper customs of of drinking tea with another. I wouldn't quite say this is a tea ceremony, but it's definitely, a high class afternoon tea. I have here written that, like, honestly, Teal's explanation can stay. I think the fact that the saint comes away from this thinking she's a nymph, I think that's priceless. And Teal just kind of being like, well, I guess you're right. Like, you're not wrong. It's just a different culture, isn't it? I'm just a nymph of a different culture, aren't I? Even though that would probably be pretty racist to an elf, but I digress. Um, that's a good point, actually. Maybe that should jump ship, or maybe Teal should make a remark about that of like, yeah, we're not the same, actually. That's a little derogatory, saint. Maybe that's even a better point. Maybe that's a better stroke against the saint of like, Teal mentions that, and the saint's just like, no, I'm pretty sure you're a nymph, and just glass shatter. Teal Lobork, just like, okay, sure, lady. All right, we can add a little xenophobic, a little racist to your list of saintly qualities. Um, there's a note here where the this one this one here. There's a note here where I'm mocking myself for conversational spacing. And this is something I don't know why I did it like this. I don't know when I start doing it, but I hate that I don't do it the whole book, because in the start here, um, there'll just be conversations that overlap, right? There will be something where Teal's talking in one paragraph, and also the saint is talking in the same paragraph. And I think I had a rule. I was following a rule at the time, something like if they're both talking about the same thing, then it's included in the same paragraph as long as there's spacing between it, as long as there's like a sentence between it. And oh Nelly, do I not like that. What I do later on is just whenever there's a line spoken, it gets a new paragraph. And that's much better for reading. It takes up more space, but honestly, I don't care. I don't have to go through this nonsense of like, wait, who said that? Who's talking right now? Like, who's talking. Bip, 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 bip. Everything's layered. Everything's concise. I feel like even in the middle of this chapter, I stopped doing it. But something to be aware of. Something to be aware of going forward is that conversational spacing needs to be consistent. Um, so they're talking, right? Teal explains her ears. The saint recollects her harrowing journey into the forest beyond the river. And I think the way she does it, she seems a little forlorn. Like, oh, yeah, I did that. It sucked. I think the saint would really lean into it and be pretty theatrical and make it out to be this death-defying escape, this barely got away with her life kind of moment. There's an interesting question here. How does she ford the river? I don't know. How does the forest, cling to her if she's wearing these big robes? I don't know. How does such a delicate being such as herself force herself into the situation and like keep pursuing? I think I definitely want to keep this quality of disgust with what she did. She's like, she reviles the forest. She thinks that what she did was like no being should have to go through that kind of torture. But essentially what I'm getting at is like, how did she do these things? How did she persevere? She really keeps coming up with these notions that it was her faith, right? Her faith for enlightenment kept her dogmatic as she did these kind of harrowing tasks, right? How she actually goes about doing those things, like the technicalities, whatever, that's a problem for future me. That's a draft 2 problem that I'm just going to have to figure out on the fly. Which I can say now, because I'm here and I'm not future me, because future me Always gets the short stick. I make a point here that it would be prudent to emphasize Teal's lack of direction and the building oppression of her amnesia by having her... she gets this news that, oh yeah, I went through the forest and it really did just puke me out back where I started. Even though I was covered in cuts and bruises and welts and I was soaking wet, like I knew I did what I did, and I still just ended up where I started. That would really take a lot of the wind out of Teal's sails, who Teal at this point was pretty certain, like, oh, that old dude's crazy. Surely I can just go back up the river. Like, if that's where I came from, that's where I came from. But I need, or I don't need to, I think it would be good to have in this moment this developing doubt, like we've talked about. Teal is descending into this situation of doubt where she's unsure of what she should do or what's really going on or who she is. And I want to juxtapose that, compare it against her outward civility. Inwardly, Teal's freaking out a little bit hearing this story. But outwardly, she takes a sip of tea and she just keeps the conversation moving. She displays absolutely no signs right now that she is maybe freaking out a little bit. Maybe she's a little worried. Which, like, we kind of get into it, but, like, I think Teal would do a little... She would be a little more steely, right? I mentioned how she gets a little pale, how she, kind of offers some conversation, but it's a little tepid. Like, I think Teal here wouldn't miss a beat. She would just lay into the next point of, like, oh, good golly gosh, that sounds bad. How on earth did you manage? Giving the saint an opportunity to be like, well, it was because I am a devout worshiper, because I am saintly. And then Teal can kind of prod at that of like, oh, okay, well, like, what does that mean? Because we get into the next point is that for her to transition, right, for her to be interrogating the saint is in her mind a distraction, right? We get another point of, ooh, a human. I don't have to think. I can talk to this being. I can just listen to them ramble and I can kind of pull at the threads that are them and not have to worry about mine. I don't have to worry about the threads that are mine that are fraying and falling apart behind me. I just won't pay attention to them. So this gives her a great transition into, once again, inveigling the saint here, applying some honeyed words, hoping to get the saint to speak of their, of their doctrine, of their religion, of their faith, of their beliefs. I on that note, I need to reinterpret the saint's response here. She should come off as more like very well learned and well versed, but totally ignorant. I have here written more so incapable. She just she knows there are things that one must do, one must adhere to in order to achieve enlightenment, but the saint doesn't really want to. She doesn't really, she's lived her whole life in such a pretentious position that she's just extravagance. Okay, if I must be humble, then I'll simply do away with one of my robes, I won't wear as much eyeliner. I'll only powder my face 3 times a day instead of 5, right? She sees her meager sacrifices as, oh yeah, I'm contributing. I'm doing tons. Where's my lotus? Sign me up. I'm basically a bodhisattva, right? There's a funny bit here where Teal's thinking about her clothes. I don't know if it's here or later on. But I think it's a funny little gag. I think it's a funny little gag that Teal is just maybe these aren't my clothes. I haven't considered I haven't considered if maybe these are just somebody else's things that I put on. Um, yeah, I have a note here. This is an important note, but I can't remember. It's in context with something. She's talking about her clothes. She has a bit of a moment of like, yeah, right here. Um, she goes, "Oh yeah, it's my outfit, right? That's why I feel connected to it." And then she kind of like, is it? Is it my? I really hope it's my outfit. Um, she should be a little more judgmental here. Um, Inwardly, right? And very, very, very inwardly. This is a moment where Teal is kind of thinking like she's hearing the saint talk about her enlightenment, her faith, her beliefs, the koans, the structure of reading the sacred texts in order to lead one to enlightenment. And she's hearing this and she's kind of thinking like, I kind of think you're a fraud. I kind of think you're full of crap. Uh, and that's something I need to engage in a little more going forward. I do it here and there, definitely more once Teal gets into the city. I don't think I've done it very well yet. And I think this would be a great point to do it, where um, Teal just inwardly super scathing. She's super judgy. She's sitting here thinking like, I kind of think this lady's full of bull. You dress like that and you think you're humble. Like, what, lady? Come on. Even I know. Like, even I'm kind of spoiled, and I know that you're not supposed to do that, right? Um, but outwardly, Teal maintains this very pleasant demeanor, this super cordial, friendly. She kind of laughs a little at the some of the saints' comments and like, oh ho ho, yes, of course, of course. Um, but inwardly, she's shooting shade. She's keeping tabs on things for later. Um, which is very Teal, and I just I want Teal to be Teal by the end of things. Um, the fact that the nun, the priestess, is literally saved by the bell is good. Um, I think it's great that the bell literally just comes out of nowhere, because that's its purpose, is to just come out of nowhere. And the fact that it saves her from having to really like, Teal starts getting into this point of like, I don't know, like, do you think that's really how it works? And the priestess at this time is like, well, surely this is how it works. And the bell just comes in and puts a kibosh on that, which is good. But I think I need to linger on the bell a little longer. The bell really only gets this paragraph, and then it doesn't even get a full paragraph, because Teal comes in and is like, oh, a bell? Like, oh, something else to be curious about? My interest in this conversation with this saint, quote unquote, has been waning. So there's another thing? Great. ADD moment. Love that. But the bell itself really doesn't get any mention, which is okay in a sense, right? It's just sort of, it's demure, it's mindful, very demure, but too demure. It should be a thing, right? It should be. This is like an integral moment in Teal's story, is that there's this bell somewhere, and it kind of haunts her, right? Teal in this moment isn't like, oh, a bell. Teal should be, kind of spacing out a little bit, kind of like, my parts of me feel drawn to that bell that I didn't know could happen. Like, this is not lust. This is not a craving. This is not addiction. This is something inside of me is actively dissociates and wants to go over that way. So we got to work on that, like at least a couple paragraphs for the bell. This note that emanates from the distance. Teal craves to hear it again. She wants to find the source. She immediately is just like, I gotta find this thing. I gotta find that bell. Right? She hears it. She's just like, oh, that's creepy noise. I gotta find it. When you're playing Dark Souls, at the start of Dark Souls, you get out of the prison and you're standing there at the bonfire and you hear that bell, dong dong, dong dong, out in the distance, right? And you're a little creeped out and you're like, I don't gotta go over there, right? You explore around the bonfire ruins or whatever, right? But that bell, right? You heard that bell, and maybe you keep hearing that bell. Maybe it comes back, right? That's kind of the same thing here, where you've heard that bell. There's a thing. Somebody's telling you a bit about a bell, right? Because you're gonna ask around about the bell, because that's kind of weird. Bells don't just ring in the distance forlornly for no reason. And so it's like that, right? It's like being in Dark Souls. In fact, I'm worried now that I'm saying that. I'm worried that maybe too much of this book is just Teal and Dark Souls. But that's a problem for somebody who's gonna have to read my book and make a video essay on it, because that's not my job. I say as I'm making video essays on every chapter. So it is my job. All right, future me, tone down the Dark Souls, please. Thank you. We're nearly at the end. We're just running over an hour. Let me cap this off quick. Because we're basically at the end, right? Teal hears the bell and then basically decides, I don't want to talk to you anymore. I'm leaving. Which is funny. But way too quick. Teal would definitely try to interrogate the saint way more. She wants to know about the tower, about the town, about anything she can figure out. She might even ask her more about the river, just to be sure. Like, you're positive you went into that river. Like, you didn't just go in and turn around. You didn't just get turned around while you're swimming. But way too quick. Teal just like, oh, that's funny. Okay, I guess I'll leave. Right? Nah, that ain't Teal. She would wait for a lull in the conversation after she's gathered her faculties. After she's gathered, what she wants to know, and then she would leave, right? And maybe they would have kind of an exchange of poems, kind of to bring back that little dusting of pink glitter over the scene. Because, that would be a thing that lovers would do. And maybe the saint here just inadvertently gives out a poem and Teal just like, oh no, I have to respond with one. And so she does, right? She responds with one, and then it's kind of like, oh, swoon. Maybe, just a thought. The fact that Teal walks away and has a little stop outside, she's like, puts on a brave face, and she stops outside because her legs fell asleep. That's wonderful. I love that. That could honestly maybe even be like the last line, is like, Teal had to step aside because her legs had fallen asleep and she could no longer walk. But otherwise, yeah, she does kind of leave too quickly. She kind of just like leaves the ground, leaves the monastery, leaves the grounds, yada yada yada. And I like that part's not bad per se, but she really just, like, this whole part here, this whole I'm leaving, is just way too quick, very out of character. But some of the bits are really cute, really just like fun writing. Those should stay in for sure. These last two paragraphs especially feel a little too hasty. Just like, oh, she leaves. Teal would kind of linger a little bit. Like, she wants to leave, but she's still like, why is this place familiar? Why is it dilapidated? She would go out of her way to avoid the scoundrel. So, like, that's something I should mention here, that she takes a long route around the outside of the compound in order to leave, just so she doesn't have to talk to the scoundrel again. But yeah, just needs to be reworked. And with that, hey, chapter 5's right here. So we did it. We did it, everyone. Good job. We did it. We can go back to you can go back. You can go back. You can leave any time. I'm stuck here. I'm stuck here forever. This is my life. I live here. But you can go. Thanks for coming. There's gonna be more. I'm gonna draw and hang out and ask questions. Oh, and I'm gonna answer them too. I'll probably answer more than I ask. But boy, I've got some doozy questions. What's for dinner? That's always on my mind. That's always the question that's on my mind. But yeah, next time, I think, hopefully, next time might run a little long, but I'm hoping we can get through chapter 5, 6, and 7. Because they're pretty small. They're all pretty small. So if, like, the less episodes I need of this, the better, because later on, whoo boy, the chapters get really big. So they might even be full 2-hour streams just of me talking. But for now, like I just said, hopefully we can get done chapters 5, 6, and 7. If not those 3, I'll definitely aim to do 5 and 6. But yeah, we're done with chapter 4. That was chapter 4. Teal meets the Saint. A lot of this chapter is just needs to be reworked. The skeleton is kind of fine. There's a few bones that need resetting, which will be a painful process. But I think I like the way it flows overall. The main points are there, but the order needs to be restructured. The characters need to be reevaluated. That their meeting needs to be reassessed. And more needs to be planted here to develop by later in the book. But yeah, that's that for now. And thanks for coming. Appreciate it. We're not going anywhere. I just gotta close things and open other things, and then we're all set. And then we are all set. What's a good way to do this, I wonder? You're gonna get a jump scare here in a second. Oh, maybe not. Maybe not. Okay, hi. And if I click this one, hey, hi. Hey, we're over here. We're hanging out. We're at the desk. We're at the drawing desk. Sorry, no Junko today. It turns out I did it properly. So get tricked. What do you want? You want to save? Fine, save it. Cool, thanks. Okay, let's open up a new canvas. Ooh, you know what? Well, let's find out together. Sometimes Sai doesn't like it when you do things without the tablet being plugged in. Not Sai, my drivers. So I gotta go over here, unplug my mouse. Goodbye, mouse. Plug in my tablet. Hello, tablet. Let's see. Did the drivers work? Feeling pretty good so far. It's looking like they work. Yeah, they work. Okay. Let me readjust a little. Move this over. I will, where am I? There I am. I'll press this button. Yep. Get my pen out. Now I'm ready. Now I can draw. Lord, am I gonna draw? Yeah. However, we will take our union approved small break while I stretch and drink tea and put on music. Music that is too quiet for YouTube's sensors to pick up. And let me center that a little bit more. There. Q&A time. Yeah, so give me a second here. I'm going to stretch and do the stuff I said I would just do. And then I'll be right back. Imagine if you were running a stream and your mod said, I'm going to run to the washroom. I can't believe it. You can't buy good help these days. You can't buy anything. My money's worthless. I don't even have any. I don't even have any money, and my money's worthless. It's probably for the best that I don't have any. You know what? You know what, everyone? I just realized I didn't prep any reference. I also have not warmed up today, so I'm a little rusty. I'll just do a sloppy little doodle here. Yeah, that is sloppy. I hate it. I'm getting rid of it. I guess I could go rooting around for some reference. I don't know. I just don't have anything good. Today's album is brought to you by Fleetwood Mac. Fleetwood Mac, Rumors, now on vinyl. Get it at your local HMV. Pardon me a moment, everyone, while I look for reference. How did your mom hate Fleetwood Mac? It's like right up her alley. It's like, okay, maybe a little less metal than I can see her enjoying, but what else do we have? I got this expression here. It's like a look of boredom. Let's try it. Let's try it. Do 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 do. You what? You what? Me? You what? I can't actually see chat because my reference is covering it. Hold on. Oh no, fire. Fire. There's a fire. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. Yeah, the unfortunate thing about streaming on YouTube and also using my second monitor for everything is that I have to do everything else on the one monitor. So I have to keep OBS open. I have to keep my reference open. I have to keep YouTube open. I don't really even need to. It's just I'm obligated. Anyway, now is the time for questions. Les questions. So, I don't know if there's like a ping feature in chat, but lay 'em on me, fam. Listen, if I'm getting a third monitor, I'm getting a better microphone first. Actually, Lord knows I need a new keyboard and mouse more than anything. Whatever, good enough. Oh, Lord. Excuse me. Got some tea. Hopefully it, the ping works. It's orange. It's orange, it's right there. Let's see. Robin, our moderator, asks, reflecting on TL's memories and haziness, how would you approach the writing aspect of it? Verbally, it seemed a bit easier said than done. That's a pretty good question. I guess I would just explain it how it is, right? Teal would be uncertain. Teal, like I've been saying, Teal would have these moments of, I can't do two things at once, by the way, and I'm drinking tea, so I can't draw. Here, let me do this while I talk, so it looks like I'm drawing. That's way too many things. I'm going to stop that. I would just describe it like I've been saying it. Teal has these memories that she's not really certain about. Teal would come to a point. Let's use. We were talking about Azure, right? So Teal would have this memory of she would kind of be stewing about it and thinking like, okay, well, why am I mad? And then it would maybe come to her that like, okay, well, yeah, I guess when I think about it, I'm pretty sure I used to be bullied for having short hair, for like being a slender figure, for not having overtly feminine qualities. Um, I hope the quotations in my voice came across, you know, like this: feminine, overtly feminine. I think I misspelled that. Forgive me, everyone. There was an emergency, a small emergency. Nothing to worry about. There was a My father was very concerned about a bird that had been injured and asked me if I knew anything about it. However, I've been here for uh, 2 hours ish, and I have no idea what he was talking about. So hopefully, they figure out the injured bird. And if not, I guess I have a treat waiting for me. I have to go save an injured bird later. But to finish what I was saying, yeah, Tia would have, these kind of nondescript memories of, oh, I think, like I can kind of remember maybe being bullied. Um, she would have flashes of imagery, right? She would maybe have scenes where she is actively being heckled by several individuals um, of a similar age, right? And she would kind of dwell on that a little bit of like, okay, I don't know any of these people. I'm pretty sure, like, if I'm remembering this, it must be me who is being bullied. Um, because I feel weird. Like clear, like that adds up, right? She would. There would be periods in her remembering where she has to do the legwork. She has to do the addition and go, okay, well, I feel bad, and that kind of explains it. The fact I'm remembering this, right? Because memories are kind of tricky. They're like little time capsules in your brain, and so if one of them's just pop, kind of been opened, but not all the way, and you're kind of getting fragments of, oh yeah, and it wouldn't really be like necessarily the idea that this one instance came back to her in her mind, right? It's more of that remembering of the sensation of, oh yeah, that feels bad. This reminds me of things that happened when I was a child that are like inadvertently attached to me on a deeper level in my psyche. And she wouldn't necessarily remember, oh yeah, this one specific time, this one time where it happened, where Azur was there. it would probably be, you know, she would be remembering that kind of vague feeling of, I think this happened. I think my feelings were hurt. I think I may be traumatized by this. I don't know. And she would be, you know, that would culminate in her trying to grab hold more of the memory and remembering, okay, wait a minute, no, how did that end? Like, why do I remember this end bit where somebody jumped out and beat them up? Like, am I adding closure onto a moment that otherwise didn't have it? And this is another way, right? This is another fragment of how one would describe the haziness, as Teal would be second guessing herself a lot. Oh, did like somebody jumped out and beat these bullies up? That's kind of weird. Like, who does that? Why? Now that I think about it, actually, why do I feel like I know them? And then trying to focus on the memory and not being able to cling to it, not being able to put substance on it. She can't remember who the person who jumped out is. She just kind of remembers, I think I know them. And they vaguely remind me of, like, family, I guess. But, and, you know, sitting down and writing it, I can obviously be more thorough in my word choice and my approach. But as it stands right now, that's kind of how I would approach the vagueness, the haziness of her memory. Because it's not really important, especially right now, that she unlocks these things, that she knows, oh yeah, this memory that happened right now. It's more important that we talk about how she doesn't know, how she doesn't remember, how she can't really recollect things on a 1-to-1 scale. She remembers somebody popped out and beat up the bullies, and oh yeah, I was bullied, and oh yeah, okay, the person who popped out reminds me of someone. Like, I definitely remember them as opposed to the bullies, but I can't put any features on that face. I can't put any distinction. But yeah, that's some words for you. I hope that answers your question, but also I'm dumb, so it might not. It might lead to more questions. Like, what's for dinner? Or, I wonder what Ganon's up to. This is the time for questions, so if you want to ask questions, go ahead and ask questions. If I can get my frickin'... I'm trying to get my mouse over here so I can open my reference again. There we go. But it's stuck. It's stuck on the screen because my pen's over here. Damn, Bestie's out here ruining the cap limit, killing the letter cap. See, this reference isn't great because the person in it is wearing a big suit, so I can't actually see their, like, features. I'm just having a guess. Also, there's, like, cuts off right here. Like, what am I supposed to do with that? Like, okay, I know the hand comes out over here. I mean, obviously it's got to do something like that. I'm not ignoring you, I'm just drawing, because if I stop, I'll forget what I'm doing. You're like, what is going on with this arm? That's way too long. That's way too long. Should be down like this, right? Yeah, because I don't have any landmarks. I don't have landmarks, Mr. Suit. Because you're wearing a suit. So that means this table would be way higher. Guess that'll have to do. Let's see here. Let's get some more tea while I read this question. Just kidding. I can't pour tea and read at the same time. I have very few skills, and many of them I cannot do at the same time. Pouring tea, definitely a skill. Let's see here. More direct about... Oh, sorry. Robin, our moderator, asks, do you think being more direct about who the saint is would change Teal's perspective? And if you did decide to change the saint into a half-elf, or something of that relation, would the thine ears and interaction after part be more personal, per se? I mean, yeah, of course it would be more personal, right? It would be... The context of the entire interaction would be different. And in fact, if that were the case, right, if Teal finds this person and goes half-elf, right, their whole first introduction is completely different. Their whole interaction is completely different. Teal just would you know, it would be like that Spider-Man meme, pointing Spider-Man meme, where Teal would just take off her hat and be like, "Oh, same, like we're twinsies. Oh my God, twinsies." But yeah, you know, the relationship would be a lot more different going forward. And you know, that would impact Teal's inevitable dislike. You know, Teal, it would make her judgments of the saint right now, right where it stands right now, Teal's willing to excuse the saint as somebody that's just a stranger. But if Teal goes into this interaction with a sense of camaraderie, a sense of kinship, right? She, you know, half-elf. What is going on here? Oh my gosh, half-elves? What's crazy? What are the odds? Girl, let's have tea, right? If that's already there, and then Teal just like figures out, oh, they're kind of snotty, then that's gonna hit. That's gonna be more painful for Teal to have to come to this conclusion that somebody she thought was she had a connection with, she actually just has nothing in common with. She actually just kind of dislikes them. So in that aspect, yeah, it would kind of hit differently. But this is all stuff to think about, right? And like, I don't know if I do that, it ruins a lot of the mystique of where Teal is. And it changes a lot of the weirdness later on. A lot of the weirdness later on is like, why, once we learn that Teal is a half-elf, there's strange illusions, stuff in her memory starts cropping up that she is like, oh yeah, I don't know if that's a thing or if that was just an elf thing. There's stuff in her delirium that is very elf focused. And that makes a lot less sense if there's another elf here, if there's another half elf here who's, oh, that half elf is fine. Is it because they stayed there? Is it because they stayed put? I don't know. Like, this is teal. I don't know. It recontextualizes things in a way that I don't know if I want to explore. I could explore them for sure, but yeah, I don't know. It would. I think doing that would change chapter 4 too drastically, and I don't know if it would be for the better. I don't know. I think that might be too much for readers that early on in the book. Like, we're already getting kind of a bombshell that Teal isn't exactly a human. If the exploration of the book were the culture, I would say that's definitely the play. But this book's intention is to just kind of like look at it and go, "Yep, that's there," and then not talk about it. Because there's no room. There's no room for that. There's barely room for the book because the book is so big. But like, if I had to shoehorn in some more elvish culture crap, then I shouldn't say crap, right? I've already explained that it's not meant to be Orientalism. But there's no room in this book for an explanation of the culture. It's something we're just going to have to be embraced by in other books. But yeah, I digress. I think it would be a little much. Not that it's a bad idea, but I think it would just alter this part of the narrative and the story at large. And it would definitely change their interaction. And in a sense, yes, it would make it more personal. But you'll get more content when you're dang well ready. You'll get more content when I start selling books and I can afford to write another book. Or as it stands right now, I can't afford to drink my tea. Then go read The Tale of Genji. Go read Dream of a Red Chamber. Just go read other books. There's so many better books out there for you to be reading. I just finished The Enormous Room today by E.E. Cummings. His memoirs of imprisonment in the First World War. Very interesting writer. Very interesting author. Dude, that's my tea. That's my tea you're drinking. I still don't know where this arm's going, but we'll just make it up. You an artist? Do you know what you're doing? No, you don't. If you do, get out of here with that bullshit. Go on. Go on. Ain't no one having that. Ain't no one having that. I think she's... The dude in this photo is holding a pen. Maybe Teal's got like a little quill. I know this is probably the worst feather I've ever drawn, but whatever, it's just a sketch. And got like a pad, just like a stack of papers. The perspective here is pretty off. Oh well. Yeah, should be way flatter. We ain't seeing any of this shit. Damn. What's the bestie doing? Writing a frickin' essay? Uh-oh. Hey, that's not bad. It's well after 4. That's the first yawn. It's not too shabby. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. I will read that question in a moment. For the time being, I'm going to not. I'm going to not answer your questions in this Q&A period. I'm going to ignore you and draw. Nothing out of the ordinary there. Let's see here. Okay, with regards to your question, I guess, yeah. I feel like I don't want to be mean. I feel like I already said that earlier. Is basically that's what's going to happen. Is the poems are going to be rewritten to allude to the actual poems. Um, I think there's really only the one line that the saint speaks that's directly from the Tale of Genji, but even that, you know, even that would be fine to just yoink. I mean, it's such an old text. If Royal Tyler wants to throw fists over me quoting their translation, then okay, you can come sue me. I've got no money. You can that's a good look, buddy. That's a good look. And yeah, right, even if I do reference it, okay, sure. There's a footnote. There's a footnote saying this is online, whatever, of page whatever of Royal Tyler's translation of the Tale of Genji. And we'll all have a really fun time in court discussing whether or not the text originally belongs to Lady Murasaki, and then the historical implications that, oh, maybe she didn't actually write all of it. So that'll be fun. That'll be a good case to figure out. But yes, the poems will be rewritten. They'll be essentially, I'm just trying to get the essence out of the poems that I did use. But I'm just going to rewrite them. They're just going to be my own poems. And then the one line that I reference, I don't think I'm going to rewrite it. I think I'm just going to stick it in as like a nod to the book. You know, like, hey, if you didn't catch on, I'm referencing this book. If you didn't catch on, the saint is meant to be a character from that book. If you didn't get it, she's meant to be from the book. Which is kind of weird now that I'm saying that out loud, but I don't really care. I don't care. A lot of this book is weird. I don't care. You can't take the weird out of the dummy. Do. My album already stopped, but I've been talking for a long time, and I don't want to get up. I don't want to get up to flip the album. So I'm just gonna sit here in silence and draw. Because I think, even though that answer wasn't very good, I think that's all of your questions. I have flipped it. Oh, flip the album? I thought you meant the canvas. No, I ain't flipping the album. I'm lazy. I don't feel like it. These eyes are really unsymmetrical. But once again, I'm lazy. I don't want to fix it. I'll probably just end up starting over. Or maybe not. It's already 4:45. We'll probably wrap up here soon. I realized talking now that I didn't upload the drawings from last week, mostly because they were pretty bad. I didn't like them. There's a case to be made there. Oh, no, you didn't like them, did you? You didn't like your drawings. Yeah, well, it's not your art, is it? Like, whoa, hey, whoa, wait a minute. Yes, it is my art. Actually, I made it. I made the thing. I don't owe you. I don't owe you my art. It's my art. Well, as a consumer of art, as an enjoyer of art, you want the art, you can't handle the art. We're just assuming Teal's arm is going to go like this and connect at where the joint ends, and everything will be honky-dory. Do 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 do. You think you're so funny. You think you're so funny with that hand of yours that you don't have because you don't have hands. Because you're a little bird. Spoiler alert, everyone. Robin's a little bird. I said it. Exposed. You've been exposed. Robin's a little bird, and they don't have hands. They've got little wings. Tiny little birdie wings. Now all of China knows you're a bird. Oh boy. When you look down and your cup of tea is half full. Yippee. That's a yippee moment. Oh boy. That's an oh boy moment. I'm just gonna doodle. Wait, we got 10 minutes left. I can doodle a teal. I can do a little teal. I don't need reference. I'm a big artist. I don't need reference for every drawing I make. Even though it's probably just going to look like every other drawing I make. Because I'm not using reference to challenge myself and further myself as an artist. You don't need reference. You don't need reference to draw. You just use what's up here in your noggin. The real world? To hell with it. You don't need that crap. The real world will only slow you down. I don't have to answer that. I don't know what the real world is. I don't. As a box, as a drawing box, I don't have to answer that question. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what I'm doing with this one. You should draw teal as a bird. Okay. Like for real? Like a real teal? Because I definitely need a reference for that. Let me try from memory first. I've seen teal like avians before, right? That's got to count for something. I think they've got kind of short beaks, if I remember. They've got kind of short beaks, like squashy little heads. And then I don't know anything about what their plumage looks like. Of course she has to have the big doofy hat. It's not teal unless there's a big doofy hat. I feel like there's a neckband, maybe? I don't know. If you hear sounds of restrained pain coming from me, it's me trying not to cough. Pro tip, if you have a cough, don't. What do you mean which there's like the common teal. That's like it. It's like the only one. It's the only teal. There's only one what do you mean? There's teal. Teal Evergarden. That's it. She's common because she's the only one, right? What do you want from her? Like somebody threw bread in the pond for her. You would throw bread in a pond for a little duck, even though it was clearly an invasive species. What? Did you not see the signs? Clearly, this bird is eating all of the natural wildlife. But if we've got like a couple minutes here. If I were to draw a teal as a little bird, what would teal look like? Teal would probably just be like a circle. Maybe like 2 circles. Oh, that's kind of weird. That's kind of different. Maybe a bit bigger, a little squashier. Kind of like a dumpling-shaped bird. Oh, drawing hats. My least favorite thing. Sometimes you just get the shape right. You know, you just get the shape right on turn 1, but sometimes you don't, and then you spend hours trying to draw a hat. Or like the facsimile of a hat, anyways. Something that feels like a hat. I don't know if we'd I should have the cloak on, right? I think she screwed up a transformation spell or something. Fairly Odd Parents looking ass magic. What the heck? What the heck? It's like when Akko tries to turn into a fish. Just ends up being the doofiest looking fish ever. Yeah, so there's Teal as a little bird. And what else do we have here? Teal as a regular bird. I did like a duck. I don't know. It's supposed to be a teal. I don't know what teals look like. I refuse to go find a reference right now. And then particularly bored looking teal from a reference that was kind of boring. Ironically, the reference was boring. So this is me. This is me looking at the reference. Yeah. Not too shabby. I didn't turn my records. I didn't flip it. That's all right. Sometimes you just don't want to flip the record over because you want to end the stream. Let's think. Let's see here. What did we talk about? We talked about chapter 4. We discussed chapter 4 and its many pitfalls. Next week we will be back at the same time, Tuesday at 3 p.m. for another draft diary, where we will explore chapters 5 and 6 and hopefully 7. 3 small chapters. Hopefully we can just run right through them and get them all done. Hopefully next time I remember to have some better reference for our drawing period. As always, thanks for coming. Thanks for stopping by. Always appreciate it. Hopefully it wasn't too dry, but it was probably really dry. Sorry. Talking about a book is like that. But yeah, we'll be here next Tuesday, 3 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Hope y'all can make it. Thanks for stopping by this time, and enjoy the rest of your week. Or, don't, if that's what you want. But I certainly hope you do. See ya.